Want to make movies? Hey there, aspiring filmmakers. You're the new Hollywood generation. My name is Orlando Delbert. This is Hollywood Unapologetic. I first wrote about success in filmmaking and life when I was writing Pollyanna's tear-soaked Battlefields of Hollywood, a survival guide against the cynicism and the hypocritical. Today I want to speak about filmmaking essentials, Robert Smith's 2% solution to help America's black-owned businesses, Netflix, and the new Hollywood generation. If you haven't watched Filmmaking Essentials, 300 black artists and executives are pushing for change in Hollywood and the new Hollywood generation, I'll have a link at the end of this episode for you to check out. I was reading an article in Forbes yesterday written by Nathan Vardi, The 2% Solution, Inside Billionaire Robert Smith's bold plan to funnel billions to America's black-owned businesses. Yes, I read Forbes Magazine. I'll have a link in the description below to the Forbes article for you to check out. In a keynote address Smith gave to over 200 top philanthropists at the 9th Annual Forbes 400 Summit on Philanthropy on Thursday, he proposed that large corporations should use 2% of their annual net income to empower minority communities over the next decade. While the average American household charitably donates 2% of its income every year, Smith is asking corporate America to do the same. This was after he called on big banks to capitalize the financial institutions that service black-owned businesses and minority-run entrepreneurial ventures in an effort to begin reversing corporate America's history of structural racism. Nowhere is structural racism more apparent than in corporate America, Smith said. If you think about structural racism and access to capital, 70% of African American communities don't even have a bank of any type. While the black community makes up 13% of the U.S. population, only 1% of America's total banking assets is represented by minority-owned banks and credit unions. Netflix announced yesterday plans to deposit 2% of its holdings, or around $100 million, into black-owned financial institutions and community development organizations, which, by the way, Netflix already shares its cash to around 30 banks around the world. Netflix said in a statement, "We believe bringing more capital to these communities can make a meaningful difference for the people and businesses in them, helping more families buy their first home or save for college, and more small businesses to get started or grow." Netflix also plans on investing $25 million into the Black Economic Development Initiative. This is a new fund that will invest in black-owned financial institutions serving low-income communities and an additional $10 million to the Hope Credit Union. It's important to mention, as part of Netflix's business model, this is part of a routine commercial strategy that helps address racial inequality, which began back in April of this year. You may be asking yourself, what does any of this have to do with my starting my filmmaking career? Something I speak about over and over during this series that I've written about is that everything in Hollywood is about making money, big money. And keeping that in mind, the whole idea behind the new Hollywood generation movement is about empowering one another to empower our industry, our communities, and ourselves. Prior to the coronavirus pandemic, the past 2-3 years or so saw an increase of motion pictures and television programming. Television in particular, if I'm not mistaken, had in motion over 500 productions alone. This gave opportunities for a more diverse cast and crew and storylines, more supportive of inclusion of one another. And knowing the studios and networks only care about profits, the larger and quicker and the better, I see a real opportunity for us if we look at our craft as a business and our ideas as products. Now hear me out. I can't tell you how much resistance I've received over the decades when I presented this line of thought to aspiring filmmakers and content creators. Many of them took offense to the idea of selling out, and not one of them has seen one of their projects get distributed. Not one. They wasted years discussing the latest and greatest camera technology they couldn't afford, with little focus on any of the business and legal side, which a majority of the financing would come from. By the way, most of you watching this can shoot with a smartphone in your pocket. I shot with my iPhone 5 and first generation iPad, both of which I still shoot on. Shit, we shot feature films decades ago on DV, which was distributed internationally. That sure as shit isn't better quality than what your damn iPhone can capture today. Sorry, I'm just tired of seeing so many young talented individuals waste precious time on the best 4K camera talk when they can be shooting today with what they already have. If you truly want to be a self-sufficient filmmaker or content creator of streaming media, what's spoken about here today may be a possible business opportunity, especially if you live in a community that is currently underserved by the financial sector. Do a Google search for free business plan and download a couple of them. Take a look. They'll ask questions. Fill in the blanks. Do your best and don't sweat not knowing all the answers. The answers will come to you as the business plan grows. But I'll tell you, not only should you have a business plan already for your production company before starting your first film, you should also have one to help set goals for your particular film or television project. You'll also need one to help put together your pitch packages, show Bibles, and have access to any type of financing and distribution that's not a free streaming service like YouTube. If you don't know what your goals are for you, your projects, and for what's next, you cannot truly grow. You cannot truly succeed. I want you to succeed. As members of the new Hollywood generation, we are all in it together. Be safe, be smart, take it all one day at a time, and don't forget to be great. I'm going to add a link at the very end to the episode, 300 Black Artists and Executives Are Pushing for Change in Hollywood and the New Hollywood Generation. If you haven't checked it out, I think you'll dig it. Are you ready for the challenge?